I got myself in a very desperate situation to where, my instincts and my intuition kicked in. Your gut is so inflamed right now, you can't tolerate all this fiber you're eating. There was two options for me in my mind to do, and that was to go on a carnivore diet, removing all fiber, or to go on a juice fast. It's really challenging for me to be open-minded because I built my entire career off of that type of way of eating. I mustered up the courage. At the time, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to experiment with this and see where it goes. And then I started eating meat. I experienced amazing results. It blew me away. Instantly, gut inflammation gone, bloat and gas gone, the pancreatitis gone, the psoriasis that I would get in weird places just amazingly quickly went away. I actually gained 10 pounds in 5 days.
Okay, good morning, everybody. We have, looks like John, and I guess you're going by the Mangotarian, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Can you hear me?
I used to go by that name, yes, when I was a fruitarian.
Okay.
But I call myself the Meatatarian now.
The Meatatarian, because your screen name said Mangotarian, so it'll be an interesting background, I guess. So,
I got to fix that. Yeah, I got to fix that.
Where are you located?
I'm located right there behind you. Koh Phangan, Thailand. Looks just like that.
Oh, okay, nice.
Your background.
That's where I am too. Yeah, that's where I am.
I mean, I'm from Southern California.
Yeah.
But I've been living in Thailand for 3 years.
Got it. That would make it convenient to be a Mangotarian, I suppose. But anyway, well, John, give us a little background. Tell us your story, man. What's the story here? So I guess you were doing some fruitarian stuff for a while and changed your mind. How'd you get into that stuff?
Yeah. So pretty much 14 out of 15 years, I was vegan. First 7 years, I was more of like a low-fat, starch-based, John McDougall guy.
Right.
I know you're a fan of his. And so then I snowballed into a standard American diet, and I did that for about a year. And so what happened there is I lost my health. I got prostatitis, arthritis, extreme fatigue, candida overgrowth, you name it, just a host of systemic issues. And I was trying to find answers. And my gut instinct was like, these doctors are pretty much incompetent. I would go to them and try to find answers, what caused my issue. Most of the time, they didn't have any answers for me. They told me it's not, has nothing to do with my diet. So I just thought the incompetence of that was really ridiculous. And I had the motivation to heal. And I believe that you could heal naturally. I've heard stories of people that have healed entirely, real chronic health conditions from, natural ways of eating. At the time, I found raw veganism and fruitarianism because I heard about regenerative detoxification, where you could completely heal your body of serious health conditions through fasting and living on fruit and that sort of thing. And surprisingly, I actually did heal my prostatitis by doing that. But, after about 4 years of trying to maintain that type of diet, I started to develop a lot of issues, mainly gut-related issues, colitis-like symptoms, pancreatitis, just extreme gas, bloat, undigested foods in my stools, all just crazy, digestive issues. And at the time, I was really invested in that type of community. I was actually a leader in that community. I've written over 2,000 articles about how to heal the body with fruit. And, I kind of just got myself brainwashed into those types of theories. And I invested a lot into that. So I was really in denial with what true health actually was, because that type of community, everything is blamed on detox when you have a health issue. It's what we call a healing crisis. It's part of the process of getting the body clean, And so after 4.5 years, I started really questioning my diet. And I got tired of thinking, okay, it's just part of the process. I got to clean the body, the lymphatic system, the colon, the whole shebang. And I got myself in a very desperate situation to where, my instincts and my intuition kicked in, like, your gut is so inflamed right now, you can't tolerate all this fiber you're eating every day. and that's why I was really attracted to fasting, because you remove all the fiber, you go on a juice fast or whatever. And so it relieves the symptoms temporarily. And a lot of the times that could lead into like an eating disorder, which I had, a serious eating disorder. And so there was two options for me in my mind to do, and that was to go on a carnivore diet, removing all fiber, or to go on a juice fast. Well, I'm already underweight, malnourished, and I'm tired of playing that whole game. Okay, I go on a juice fast and then I return to a raw food diet and I get the same problem over and over. It's kind of this insanity complex that I was tired of dealing with. And my whole identity was wrapped into fruitarianism. So, it was really challenging for me to be open-minded, because I built my entire career off of that type of way of eating. But I mustered up the courage, and at the time I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to experiment with this and see where it goes. I was, with my vegan mindset, I was hoping that the experiment would fail because, I didn't want to eat animals, because I got, brainwashed into that type of concept that, sentient beings and, you don't want to kill innocent animals, the whole thing. And so it was kind of emotionally draining at the time to think that, I've been 14 out of 15 years of vegan, and now I'm going to eat just animal foods, right? Even though I grew up on steaks, my dad fed me steaks when I was a kid, and I grew up eating meat, but 14 years abstaining from meat is kind of a huge change, right? So I started eating eggs, and then I started eating meat, and surprisingly, very, very quickly, I experienced amazing results. It blew me away, because in my mind, it's like protein is what's causing disease, because the whole propaganda in that community. Instantly, gut inflammation gone, bloat and gas gone, the pancreatitis gone, the psoriasis that I would get in weird places just amazingly quickly went away. I actually gained 10 pounds in 5 days. My hormones completely changed. My testosterone went quickly up. Mental clarity, blood sugar issues resolved. And I felt like that kid again, and I instantly got into the gym, started working out, and now I work out twice a day. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at now. I've never felt better in my life. Right now at 37 years old, I feel like I'm 25. And so, it was a big mind screw at the time to go from one extreme to the other, extreme. But I'm very convinced now that high fiber diets really do screw up the gut lining over time. And I think a lot of plants might contain a lot of defense chemicals as well. And so they're like small amounts of antibiotics, so they mess with the gut microbiome. And that's why it's kind of a slow process. People coming off a standard American diet into a raw vegan diet, they might feel better because they cut out all the garbage. But over time, most people that I've worked with too in the community develop the same issues: depression, skin issues, digestive issues. And a lot of people, can have ended up getting colitis from eating too much plant matter, especially raw. So being in a desperate situation, I made that call to go carnivore. Well, carnivore-ish. And it's changed my life. So, yeah.
For many years when you were doing the veganism, the fruitarianism, and you were sort of bought into the ideology, in that situation, we see today a big push to sort of globally try to push people off eating meat and get them on plant-based diets, or mostly plant-based diets. I assume 5 years ago you would have been supportive of that, but now you're finding that would have been the wrong move. So how does that change your perspective with, and do you think you have anything to say to other people that are maybe pushing veganism and on board with this global push to make everybody go plant-based?
Yeah, well, it changes my perspective because, you just don't know until you experiment. And if you're caught up in a religion and an ideology, then it's going to close your mind from doing that. But for me, I got myself in a very desperate situation where I had no choice. I tried to make a vegan diet work several different ways for over 14 years. And the first time I hit a wall as well. And my wife was like, you don't look right. You know, you look like you're malnourished. You're losing a lot of weight. What happened to all your muscle? And, you know, no man wants to hear that from their wife. And so I started eating fish at that point. But then, you know, I snowballed into the standard American diet and lost my health. And then again, I tried this raw vegan thing and go, oh, well, you know, it didn't work before because I was eating cooked foods. So, you know, this raw vegan thing is way better than the cooked stuff. And so, you know, I don't know. It's hard for me to answer the question because you get so caught up in the ideology and you feed the subconscious mind with these theories over and over every single day. So it's like the cognizant dissonance. You refuse to change your perspective on things. But me, I got myself in such a desperate situation, and people kept sending me messages like, hey, John, I've worked with you. You know, you helped me, you know, transition into being a raw vegan years ago, and it didn't work for me either. And then I found this carnivore diet and it's changed my life forever. And so I'm getting these messages every single day. And I've tried every which way to make the vegan diet work after I crashed and burned really hard after 4.5 years. So when I actually, you know, did it, and you know, the hormones change, the weight comes on, the mental clarity, the gut inflammation down, all these things start to resolve. Well, I'm a regenerative detoxification specialist, so I help people heal holistically, you know, through cause and effect. I try to help people get to the root cause of the problem through diet. And so when I'm getting all these results, it changed my perspective because I've experienced what it's like to heal prostatitis on a raw vegan diet, because to me, it was just an elimination diet that allowed me to heal. But that took me like 6 months to like a year to fully heal from that. You know, maybe 90% healed my prostatitis in 6 months. And I had a severe chronic case of it as well. And then about a year to fully resolve that and, you know, get rid of a lot of like arthritis and all that type of stuff. But, you know, dealing with the gut inflammation in denial for at least 2.5 years. And in 2 to 3 months, it's completely gone. It's kind of hard not to change your perspective and understand like there's something missing here in this whole plant-based diet, you know? You know, and then I started to think like, well, because I'm the type of person that likes to appeal to nature because, you know, I feel like that's, you know, where we come from anyways. And observing indigenous people living in nature, nobody has ever lived on a plant-based diet. And our ancestors never lived on a plant-based diet, you know? And I started to think in my mind, like all these plant foods we see in the grocery stores didn't exist in nature. They're all man-made. And so, you know, me thinking that way started to open my mind more towards, well, if I were to follow an ancestral consistent diet and observing what hunter-gatherer indigenous people eat today, they don't have any record of health problems like we suffer with in the Western world. And they don't eat a plant-based diet. They don't have records of heart disease. They don't have records of diabetes and all these issues that, you know, the plant-based people claim that you could reverse. And, you know, just from observing my clients over the years, literally every single one of them was iron deficient and anemic. And, you know, hearing stories about women losing their hair, men and women losing their hair and women losing their periods, so many women having miscarriages, you know, which I think could easily be resolved with some cholesterol and some animal nutrients in the diet. And so knowing that I recovered so quickly, it makes sense that animal nutrition is more bioavailable than plant foods are. And I already knew about plants having anti-nutrients and enzyme inhibitors and phytic acids and that sort of thing when I was a fruitarian, you know, because I had the mentality of fruits don't want to be eaten, you know, they contain a seed, so they're not that toxic as a plant food. So, you know, it wasn't really that hard for me when I got the results to start to observe some of the things you say and the other doctors and, you know, pioneers of the animal-based carnivore movement are saying. And so as I had an open mind to look into those things they were saying, I felt really silly pushing a plant-based diet because most of the things they were saying made a whole lot more sense than the plant-based people were propagating.
Why not, I mean,
including myself.
Why not, like some of the critics would say, well, why not just eat more protein on a plant-based diet? Because a fruitarian diet is by definition going to be fairly low protein, at least in my view. Why not just go, add some pulses and legumes and that type of stuff? And because this is what the vegan critics would say, you're a fruitarian diet, that's never going to work. I mean, there's sects within veganism, right? There's different little branches and raw food versus whole food versus, fruitarian versus junk food. So why not just do the whole food, Dr. Grieger, Dr. Garth Davis, whatever those guys, why not do that version?
Yeah, well, I just don't think the amino acids in plants are bioavailable. If we can't really digest and break down these indigestible plant foods, what makes us think we're actually absorbing them? And so doing the experiment of trying to build muscle on a plant-based diet, at least for me personally, was very, very difficult. In the pursuit to do that, I was destroying my gut because I had to eat triple the amount of food to build muscle mass. And I was always miserable, full of gas and bloat in the process. And now that I'm eating animal food, I could build muscle effortlessly.
What about
it's very easy?
So what about you got Rich Roll and you've got a handful of vegan bodybuilders and stuff. What about those guys? I mean, because they've got muscle and they're not dying. And why are they able to successfully do this and you and many others are not? What do you think's going on there?
Well, I think there's many different ways to build muscle. There's people that could take testosterone and steroids and build a lot of muscle. I think you could build muscle on calories and hard work, but to maintain muscle and good health at the same time, I think it could be very difficult on a plant-based diet. I do believe some people have better genetics than other people as well, and so it may not be as difficult for them to build muscle. But guys like me, it didn't work. It was very, very difficult. But yeah, that's a good question. There are people that could do it very easily on plant-based diets, and then there are those like me that really struggle. Maybe it has something to do with gut microbiome issues. Maybe some people have malabsorption due to the microbiome out of whack, and other people that don't, so they're able to kind of maybe absorb some of the protein in plants to build muscle. I was able to build muscle as a vegan too, but it was just a lot of hard work. And it's just not at all anymore. I eat 2 meals a day, either lamb or steak. And I don't overeat at all. And I've been able to put on at least 20 pounds in a month.
Yeah, I don't, like I said, I think your point is, and my point is, well, it's not impossible. It's much harder. You're giving yourself a handicap. And it's, like I said, I think if you're willing to do that for your ethics, and the thing I've pointed out, if you're an athlete trying to do a vegan diet, and if you're looking at it from an ethical standpoint where your goal is to supposedly do the least harm, which I think is also wrong, also not, you're not actually accomplishing that. But if you believe you are by eating a vegan diet, then being an athlete, you just got to eat more food, and more food equals more animal dead. More food equals more dead animals, regardless of what your dietary strategy is. So if you're a vegan athlete or a bodybuilder, you've got to eat more food, and therefore you've got to ultimately kill more animals. I mean, that's just the way it is. And so that's why I say there's no such thing as a true vegan athlete. There may be plant-based folks, but there's no vegan ones, at least if you believe the definition of veganism.
And at least for me, the more that I tried to do that, the harder it became to actually maintain the muscle.
Because
I lose energy.
What was your weight? What was your lowest weight on a fruitarian diet or raw vegan diet? And what are you at now?
Oh, man. Okay, so I'm 5'11", almost 5'11". And the lowest I got down to as a real pure, strict fruitarian. And by the way, the Mangotarian thing came into the picture because I lived on mangoes only for 7 months. So that's how extreme I was at the time. 105 pounds.
Holy cow.
It's the lowest I got as a fruitarian. Now, if I had it in cooked foods, I would get up to like maybe 125. And right now I'm at 150 pounds.
Yeah, that's pretty lean. 105. That's down there for sure.
That's scary. That's scary lean.
What made you just eat mangoes only for 7 months? What was the thought process on that?
So the teacher that I followed, that I was a student of and became certified as a detox specialist. I don't know if you've heard of his name, Dr. Robert Morse.
Yes.
He's he's like the godfather of the fruitarian cult.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
And he lived on oranges for 6 months. So that was an inspiration of mine. There's another woman named Ann Osborne. She's a 20 or 30-year fruitarian. She lived on melons and oranges for all this length of time. And so at the time, it was mango season, and living in San Diego, it was really difficult to get quality fruit anyways. The watermelons sucked. I was always throwing them out. And at least the mangoes were more consistent. And so my focus was, it wasn't really about just living on mangoes. It was more about, I just want to clean out my body so I could heal this prostatitis. And so the simplicity of doing that, and because mangoes were more consistent, so I was able to actually make it work without going crazy, trying to do a complete fruit diet. And I think for me, it was also the discipline. It was more of me trying to prove a point, like, because I saw so many people complaining in the community about how, I can't follow the diet, but they're suffering. And I'm like, well, let me show you what's up. So maybe it was a lot of ego and pride at the time as well. And the discipline factor of it kind of fueled me to stay doing that type of thing.
So when you, I'm just curious because, well, I guess you said maybe it was a fiber thing, because a lot of people would say, well, why go from raw fruitarian, super extreme, and then go straight to another extreme, carnivore diet, because that's kind of extreme as well. Why not just do an omnivore diet and kind of get the best of both worlds? Why not do that?
Exactly. I'm hearing that every day. I probably heard that today on some of my social media. Well, for me personally, because I felt like the quickest way to heal the gut was to remove the fiber. So it wasn't that my focus was to go pure extreme. It was more towards, I want to use the most effective tools to heal my gut, and then maybe I will bring in variety later. But what I tell people is that this whole balanced diet thing was propagated by the government when they brought in the food pyramid. And it's just not a reality. If you were living in nature, you're going to get what's most bioavailable, which is in front of you. So variety isn't going to really be a thing anyway. So, it's not that I choose to go to the extreme, but I just want to do what works best for me. And as long as the nutrition is there, as long as the results are there, then that's what I'm going to do. But yeah, I get that a lot, and I really don't care, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either. I'm just pointing out the obvious. Most critics of this approach would be that, and I think your point about the balanced diet. I mean, most of us, if we would just dial back the clock, even just a couple hundred years, not that long ago, would have no way to eat what they're recommending to eat now, because it just doesn't. None of it grows locally. Now you're in Thailand. And I assume there's a ton of tropical fruit and you have access to all that stuff. How hard is it to do a meat-based diet in Thailand?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we got New Zealand not too far away, and Australia. So we get imported stuff from New Zealand and Australia. So I go down to the local macro or the Tesco Lotus, and you can get not like frozen, New Zealand grass-fed meat, pretty good for a good price. So I go down to the macro, and I get a lot of lamb shoulder for a pretty decent price. And it's imported from New Zealand. I prefer New Zealand meat over Australian meat. I personally just feel better when I eat grass-finished meat versus conventional meat. I don't know why. Maybe that has to do with something of eating too many grains and just a vegan diet for way too long. Created that sensitivity maybe to animals that are fed grain. I don't know, but I feel much better. So I'm actually pretty lucky to get good quality meat for a good price imported, not from New Zealand.
Yeah. I assume there's still a pretty large fruitarian, raw vegan presence in Thailand. I mean, sure, a lot of, you probably know and hang out with a lot of people that are former, expats, whatever you want to call them, immigrants, expats, people living on an extended visa, whatever the situation is. How was your transition received? Well, poorly within that community?
Yeah. Well, I don't go around those circles in the little hangout areas where, most of the fruitarians here in Copenhagen hang out. I do get dirty looks a lot of the time though when I'm on the road, and it's usually from real skinny looking people. So I assume they're fruitarians and they know who I am. But for the most part, I don't really surround myself around those people. So I'm not sure. Now, I've been actually blessed to make friends with a couple people that live here as well that were fruitarians and now are like on an animal-based carnivore type of diet. So I actually got some support right off the bat, which was really nice. I actually came here to do a juice fast and then decided to do the no fiber carnivore diet instead. But yeah, I haven't had any backlash at all. It's mainly been on the internet is where I get that.
Yeah, that seems to be the
and trust me, I got a lot of backlash on the internet. I've lost hundreds of followers and supporters. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I mean, sure you would. I mean, there's people that believe with their heart and soul that this is the right thing to do, to not eat animals, and they're saving all these poor defenseless animals and they're providing the voices for the voiceless. I've heard that many times. Would you ever, I mean, is there any circumstance you could see yourself going back to veganism? Is there any
No, yeah. No, never. Yeah. Never. I feel so much better on the diet I'm on now. I can never even imagine going back there. Yeah, it feels like a strange dream that I even actually did that, and I was actually considered a pioneer and educator in that movement. I can never go back there. No way. I do not do well with plants. I have 14 years of experimenting with this diet to learn that it's definitely not something useful for me.
So, I mean, and I don't know, if you had a YouTube channel or some of that stuff, because you would probably, if you do and it's still up, you'd still have material that would encourage people to do a fruit diet or a raw diet. Is that still, I mean, any concerns about that?
I'm not sure what your question was, but yes, I do have a YouTube channel. I am very active on Instagram and Facebook. And I'm just sharing with people my experience and comparing the two. And I'm actually helping a lot of people.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know if can you hear me okay? I guess the question was,
yeah, it's kind of
maybe some of your older YouTube videos where you were
right.
promoting the benefits of raw fruit-based diets and stuff like that. Does that concern you that those are still up potentially, or are they still up there for people to look at?
Oh, yeah. I was just thinking about that today, because right before I got on this interview, I was scrolling through my feed on Facebook, and there's people still liking and sharing my articles. Because like I said, I've written over 2,000 articles. People love my articles because I'm a gifted writer. And so, people are still sharing that stuff. And I just don't know how to get rid of all of it. There's just so much of it. But when it comes to YouTube, I look at it like, I don't live in regret. I look at it like that was a part of my journey. That's something to go back and look at for research. And I'm not too concerned about it, but as long as I'm pushing out content now, expressing what I did before is not effective long-term, then I think I could use that as an effective tool for people to actually see what I looked like then and then what I look like now, to draw their own conclusions that it's not sustainable long-term. There's no way.
At what point in retrospect did you start to see health problems creeping in? Was it a year, 2 years, 5 years? When did you see the initial signs of decline?
So I did pretty good for about 4.5 years. And then I started noticing the longer that I did this, the fruit and the salads and 100% raw, the harder it was for me to digest the food. The more gas, the more bloat, the more GI discomfort. And then, it got to a point after 7 years to where I was feeling like I'm going to poop blood. Like there was chronic inflammation in my gut. And I heard stories about people that actually did get colitis on a raw vegan diet. I've heard stories on the phone. And so it took about 4.5 years for me to really start to question things like, man, I'm educating people. People are paying me to help them heal serious issues with their health. And yet here I am losing my health. And so it was pretty sad, for a while. But yeah, big weight off my shoulders. For coming out.
Do you have any suspicions? I mean, there's still, a plethora of people promoting vegan diets, raw food diets, fruitarian diets are all over social media. The people there are, I don't know if they say they're thriving. Sometimes you can look at them and say, gosh, you look pretty darn thin. You look kind of like you're wasting away. But what percentage of them you think are kind of deluding themselves? Are there a lot of people out there that are just, you think, doing it for the views and the looks, and they've got these pretty pictures of fruit? And I see them eating just enormous quantities of fruit, and they're bragging about how much fruit they get to eat every day. How many of those people you think are truly not doing well?
A lot. Now, a lot of the fans, and the people that look up to these people, they don't know. But I've had the privilege to work with people that were doing it way longer than me, that were really well known on YouTube. And for me coming out and telling people that I'm now eating animal foods and how much better I feel, people are actually pretty honest with me about how they truly feel. And what's really disgusting is how fake a lot of people are in that community, because there's a lot of people behind the scenes actually eating animal foods, but they don't have the courage or morals to address their followers and let them know that. And so they're just using their popularity to make money off of people. And I just am not the type of person that could ever do that. I care too much about the truth and humanity, and I really want to help people. But I got a message the other day from a girl that telling me she's eating meat and feeling much better. And I had one of her clients on the phone, because in that community, the people, they like to bounce around from the practitioners, and one of them told me that this girl that told me she's eating animal foods, that told her you can't eat meat because it'll give you parasites and it will destroy your kidneys and give you bowel cancer and all the propaganda. And I'm just like, whoa, like, she just messaged me the other day and told me that she is feeling better eating animal food, but yet she's lying to her followers and her clients, and they're paying her a lot of money. So I actually am so happy that I'm not associated with those people anymore, because there's a lot of fake people in that community.
And this is one thing I see a lot of people talking about, energy and vibration and all this stuff. Was that something that you were concerned with? There's this mucus, this Arnold Ehret mucusless diet and all that stuff. I see that stuff, and it just kind of makes me laugh that there's actually people that buy into that. But what are your thoughts on some of this vibration and energy, and you're eating dead things versus live things? And is there any conflict with that now?
Yeah, I was a real big follower of Arnold Ehret's work, the mucusless diet and all of that. And what can you break down the question again? I'm sorry.
Well, I just, there's just all these sort of what I consider, I don't know, maybe pseudoscientific concepts about energy, getting life force from live fruits, and, eating dead animals is going to give you dead energy, and higher vibration, lower vibration energies and things like that. Did that stuff impact you in any way? Did you believe that stuff? What are your thoughts about that now?
I just personally think it's because people are choosing to believe that theory is real, and so they might actually be experiencing some of that energy. But yeah, I think that energy is real. I think that the real energy comes from minerals. And I do think that it's important to get electrolytes for sure. To answer your question with hydration, that's why I drink coconut waters in Thailand. I found that when I added in coconut waters, I didn't have issues of dehydration like I did before with getting muscle cramps and that sort of thing. Now, as for the energy thing, I just think that's a spiritual concept. And so people are choosing to try to experience that, but it's in all reality, I don't think that the vibrational energy is high, because what I've experienced is a lot of superiority complex and people that are on their spiritual high horse and think they're better than others. And so if that kind of diet created this vibrational energy of unconditional love and all these things, then I would experience a little bit more of that energy from the people that preach that. And it's just not really a reality. And I really don't think that there's a whole lot of vibrational energy anyways in these modern day fruits that didn't exist in nature anyways. And and that's why if this vibrational energy that keeps you so clean is so effective, then why are there so many people that are becoming extremely emaciated and isolate themselves from the world because they don't feel well? And so I don't know if that answers your question, but I've been so disconnected from that. I don't even know what to say about it anymore, but I think our actions are what show the energy that we're vibrating on, you know? And I don't see a lot of action with those people that follow these people, but I'm not so sure Arnold Ehret, well, I think he did speak on that a little bit, but yeah, it's not reality, because, they try to think that, if you eat fruit, it's the most karmic, you're creating the least amount of karma because, animals don't die and plants want to survive too, and fruits don't, and so it's this fantasy, airy fairy, type of mentality that people muster up in their minds. But it's nothing I actually experienced, even though I was very connected to that spiritual community, and I kind of I kind of played in that world for a little bit, but not really, so I don't know.
Here's a interesting. When do you think Freely the Banana Girl is going to fall apart or collapse, or when is she going to finally have her come to Jesus meeting, or changing her mind, or is that?
I don't know.
Happen?
She's a perfect example right there. Frugivore, right? Just eat fruit. And she spends most of her days, judging others and calling everybody evil or whatever. And she's a perfect example of, I don't see that vibrational energy that exemplifies unconditional love or whatever. But she, in my opinion, looks like she's entering the end stages of veganism. And a lot of the time she won't show her face on camera probably because it's noticeable. But she's, like myself, is just really entrenched into that denial, and her identity is so locked in there. A lot of people don't have enough humility to come out and be like, you know what, it's not working. Literally, I think I might be the only one that has been as transparent, that had that level of popularity. Yeah,
there's I don't know if Freely the Ribeye Girl. I don't know if we'll see that anytime soon. But what about the other thing people say? Well, what about digestion? Hey man, you're gonna get if you only eat meat, you're gonna be so constipated. I would imagine there's a change in your bowel frequency. I can't imagine that wouldn't be the case. But are you having severe digestive problems? Because you mentioned you were having digestive problems before on the fruit page site. How has meat either improved or not improved your digestive health?
Yeah. And I was wondering the same thing. Like, oh man, am I going to get constipated? I'm not eating any fiber. I know what really causes constipation. Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that. Usually it's adrenal exhaustion, to where you couldn't move your bowels because you need neurotransmitters to activate the peristalsis to move the bowels. So I already had the understanding there that it shouldn't be a problem without fiber. And to my surprise, in my thinking at the time, I've never missed a bowel movement. I've had a bowel movement every day. I eat 2 meals a day, and I actually go twice a day. For a while, I was going once a day. And the volume's a lot less because, I'm actually absorbing the food and there's very little remains left over, versus all the indigestible fiber I was putting in my body. So of course, you move more throughout the day, but I have not experienced that at all whatsoever. And again, I was thinking in my mind, well, if we have records of indigenous people that mainly eat animal foods and don't consume any fiber, we don't have any, records of them being constipated. So, you know, but yeah, I hear that all the time. People keep saying that. And there are people that do claim that happens to them. When they switch from plant-based to animal-based, they may struggle in the beginning with constipation. I think that, like I said, that's more of an adrenal gland issue and maybe other issues as well. But that has not been my personal experience at all. And when I do look at my bowel movements, because I was kind of a detox nerd, so we used to look at our poop a lot. I don't see undigested meat there. You know, looks like a normal poop. Before, nothing but salads and nuts and stuff. You know, and so yeah, complete difference. And I'm not farting all the time. So, I mean, that's a sign of poor digestion right there, you know, and fermentation, because you're actually not digesting the food.
Well, I mean, if you listen to McDougall, you know, John McDougall and Michael Greger, they will tell you it's normal to fart, you know, 20 sometimes, 30 times a day. That's because we used to live outside and it wasn't a problem, and we should be, you know, just walking around farting all the time, which I like you, think bloating and discomfort and distension and gas is probably an indication that there's something not right. Either the food choice is wrong or the gut itself is not doing well. And so it's, you know, I think it makes sense to me, but there are other people that would certainly disagree with that. You know, what about, you know, now you've, you know, increased your risk for heart disease, like, I don't know, 1 million times, right? Because you went from fruitarian, the perfect diet, the vegan diet, to now eating meat. Are you worried about heart disease risk now? What are your concerns around that?
No, I mean, I listen to my body. You know, all the theories that, you know, people are so caught up in what's written on paper, and they can't make decisions on their own and listen to their, you know, use their common sense. Now, my circulation is drastically improved. My breathing is better. My energy is better. I mean, everything is so much better to indicate that there's no way I'm clogging my arteries with cholesterol. So I think that's definitely a myth and not true. I'm not worried about it at all. It just would make no sense to feel absolutely 10 times better and have better athletic performance, better recovery, the lowest inflammation I've ever had in my life, and yet I'm going to die from heart disease. You know, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there would seem to be some common sense there, and you know, that's one of the arguments I try to make with people all the time is, you know, look, you're obviously objectively and subjectively much healthier now. Why would you be at higher risk for disease? It just doesn't make any sense at all. And I know the critics would say, well, common sense doesn't matter, but I kind of think it does, quite honestly. Where do you find that, you know, do you find any downsides now to eating a meat-based diet versus a fruit-based diet? Is there any negatives, even if it's just social and finance-wise? I mean, what are the negatives?
You know what? I mean, I'm fresh into this at 4 months, and I don't find many negatives. I feel very satiated after I eat, very satisfied and full when I eat. For me personally, though, I think maybe the downside is that I don't do well with poor quality meat. I feel nausea if I eat poor quality meat. The other day I ate a Wagyu steak, and it was grain fed. And I'm not trying to be like the extremist grass fed only. I wanted to try it. And I woke up in the middle of the night, like almost about to throw up, and I felt extremely sick from that. So I don't know, maybe my body's very sensitive to that sort of thing. So, you know, if I were to be out and about at a restaurant and I didn't have good quality meat, maybe I might run into that problem like I did before, to where that could be a downside. But for the most part, as long as I get, you know, good quality meat, it's mostly from New Zealand, I feel absolutely incredible from it. To me personally, there's no cons. You know, people complain, oh, you know, what about eating a variety? Don't you miss eating, you know, the plant foods? I don't. I just don't. I'm very satisfied with a good, tasty steak or lamb shoulder. My energy is consistent. My blood sugar is perfect. There's no cons for me personally. there was just way too many on a plant-based diet.
As a fruitarian, how much time did you spend preparing meals, acquiring meals, cooking meals, eating meals, thinking about food compared to now? What has the difference been like?
Well, the preparation that went into it was very simple. Thinking about food, though, was constant. But yeah, I mean, as a fruitarian, it doesn't, you sit down on the grass somewhere with a big bowl of mangoes or whatever, and you just go to town on them. So it's pretty simple in that regard. I mean, it's not, it's pretty messy. You can't really go to a restaurant and do that or whatever. But what I used to do is I used to blend them up or put them in jars and then put them in my refrigerator, and I'd have them ready for the next day. So it's real simple. I just get a spoon and eat it out of a jar. The raw vegan diet is actually pretty simple preparation. It's not as simple as a carnivore diet. Carnivore diet is real simple. Throw a steak in an oven or an air fryer or whatever, and it's done. But when I was eating fruit, I mean, I could eat at least 3,000 calories of fruit a day, and I'm still thinking about food. And I can't, right when I wake up, I jump out of bed and I'm so hungry. I don't feel that way on an animal-based diet. I'm not obsessing about my next meal like I used to. And I think the reason for that was because I wasn't actually absorbing the nutrition, and my body was begging me for some real food. And I noticed that a lot with the fruitarians as well, is that, when I was on the phone with my clients, they're like, John, I'm always thinking about food, like I can't stick to this diet. It's so difficult. I want something salty. I want something fatty, So my clients would always crave meat and something, mineral rich. So, and I used to go out and get cases of fruit, and come home and complain because the fruit sucked, and I'd have to throw some fruit away, and then I'd go out some more and try to get better fruit. I was constantly obsessing about fruit. And you see these fruitarians, they actually get a sweet fruit. They're like, oh my God, it's so good. It's just a weird lifestyle. But for me, it's like, I move on so quickly. I don't even reminisce or think back at, I can't even really remember a whole lot of my fruitarian days, but it was easy to prep the food, but I was never, ever satisfied.
Yeah, it seems
no
like,
matter how good the fruit was.
It seems like, and again, I don't know for sure, but I see a lot of sort of fruitarians, and they'll make a lot of smoothies, and it seems like the obsession with sweetness, and they'll even be adding sugar to their smoothies to increase the coconut sugar or different, just plain up sucrose, table sugar. I've seen them blending this stuff up where it's just like, this needs to be sweeter and sweeter and sweeter over time. I don't know if that's you get accustomed to eating so much fruit and so much sugar that you just need more and more of it.
Yeah. I mean, in the community I was involved with, there wasn't a whole lot of the durian riders adding sugar to your smoothies type of thing, but I can't imagine adding sugar to a smoothie. I can't imagine how my adrenals trying to metabolize all of that sugar. And I remember when I used to do that, I used to crash and burn. I'd have to take naps like an old man because my blood sugar was all over the place. So yeah, it's crazy to think the liver and the pancreas having to process all of that sugar. And might as well throw this out there. We're on the topic. I got a message from a 30-year fruitarian, and she got leukemia, and she's been a pure fruitarian for 30 years. Most people are like, oh, that can't happen. You can never get cancer or anything on a fruitarian diet. It's so pure and alkaline, right? Cancer can't thrive in an alkaline body, all these things. It's like, you guys don't get messages like I do. You're not on the phone like I am with these people. And she got elongated bowel, or like prolapsing, where her bowel actually got larger from too much fiber. And then she said that she got fatty liver disease. So people used to ask me the question, what do you think about the liver in fruit? And I said, oh, that's bull crap. We're frugivores, da 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 da. But now that I think about it, I used to get like gallbladder pains, and pancreatitis and all of that. And so I think that overloads of this sugar could really be hard on the liver. And I'm trying to convey that message to the community for those that care to listen.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, and there are people that will say, it's a caloric excess, and and maybe there's a threshold for how much fructose you can eat, and certainly animal studies suggest that, and so it may be that fruit in limited quantities is fine for many people, but when you start getting to the fruitarian levels where you're eating whatever 30 bananas a day or whatever it is, that you're probably overloading that system for sure. So. Hey, we are unfortunately running low on time. I want you to take the next couple of minutes to just let people know where they can find out more about you, where they go. I know you got social media, so go ahead and let us know about those things right now.
Yeah. Thank you, Shawn. I appreciate your time in this interview. You could go to Meatatarian on YouTube. You go to Instagram, John __ Stearns, Stearns. And you can go to Facebook, same thing, John Stearns. Follow me there. Support me, guys. The vegans are on the prowl. And so, thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. And you guys have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. We'll be back tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Bye-bye, guys.